Work This Way set up Wasteworks as a project to pilot its ideas for helping offenders find employment, and with the end result we hope of them reducing their risk of reoffending. So Wasteworks was funded through a National Offender Management Service, ESF, co-financed source of funding, and the money allowed us to put offenders through an induction process, training, work experience and then employment. We've had about 13 offenders come through the project, and all of them have experienced working on a retrofit site, which is a fire station in East Hampshire, and where there's also a new build. And the whole project that they're part of on that site has got a very big environmental aim. And so we're part of this big environmental project. And the guys have been engaged in training in Site Safety Supervisor, which is a construction site qualification, and we know that that can help them find employment when they leave. Our ethos is to support them, but not in a way that makes them helpless. So they've been institutionalised potentially in the prison system, and we help them build up their self-confidence, their self-esteem, as well as the industry qualifications that we provide. And Wasteworks in itself has had some really good outcomes, but probably the most important ones for us have been offenders finding work after they've left us and when they're back in society. There's 86,000 men and women in prison at the moment. A very small proportion of them will be staying in prison. Everybody else has to be released back into our communities. And so helping them find employment is one of the best ways of reducing their risk of reoffending.
The project has really, in essence, 3 stages. So it will start off with orientation and training. So the offenders who are coming through the project will spend time with us receiving initial training in potentially waste management or health and safety qualifications, which will be of use to them, not just on the project itself, on the site that we work on, but in future sites as well. And potentially opens up further doors for them in terms of future employment after their release. The second stage is then really the actual work experience, so they're actually going out into a work environment and getting that direct experience, putting the training that they've had and the qualifications that they received into practice and actually getting some grounding behind them. And then really from there we look to actually progress them on to paid work. So paid work placements that will then enable them to actually put money behind them. So that's a really important part of the work that we do. In terms of the actual Wasteworks project as it happened up in East Hants, we really delivered it by negotiation with the site, the main contractor, and that was really, how can I explain how that was done? We set up on the site and we had a particular area given over to managing and processing the waste on site, so everything came through to us and all of the contractors on site were made aware of what we were doing, why we were there. And then they were actually able to cooperate with us and to work with us to actually help us achieve what we'd set out to achieve.
So the waste industry is an industry that we think offenders can get employment in. It's a growth industry. Wasteworks feeds into that, as do the qualifications and the experience that our team have had. Construction waste that goes into landfill is a really big issue. There's a lot of waste that comes off a construction site that isn't sorted, goes straight into a skip. It has to be sorted at a waste transfer station, or it just goes as mixed waste into landfill, and there's an enormous impact for that. So the construction industry have been working really hard to reduce the amount of waste that goes into landfill, and the Wasteworks project fed into that interest. So on the construction site, the waste that came off the site went into our compound, and where we had a target, the whole site had a target of reducing waste to landfill by 84%. We achieved 95%, which is a great outcome for us, because it proved that every little piece of waste that we could reuse, recycle, sell on, actually reduced what was going into landfill at the same time as potentially made money for the project to help it be more sustainable. So that could be everything from some very, very high quality, beautiful, locally sourced sweet chestnut block board, which we saved and we made into breadboards to sell, or rusty nails that were taken out of pallets, and we then took to a metal recycling centre and got paid for. So from the point of view of the offenders, they learnt that there's value in waste, that if they chuck something away that actually could be reused for something else, then that's money that they could be saving for themselves or making for themselves in the future. But also for their employers, they can go into any employment situation, look at what's happening on a day-to-day basis in that employment situation, and say, actually, if you do that, you may be able to save some money. If you do that, it has a good impact on the environment. And from the point of view of working with their families, children, you know, it's part of the curriculum that children learn about environmental issues. Our guys were learning about that in a very, very practical way. The background information they were given, but also on a day-to-day basis, learning about how they could make an impact on the environment by reducing the waste that was going to landfill.
I think that the project really has helped different people in different ways. It's helped the offenders that have come through the project directly, in the sense that they have received skills that they can then take on. They have a better chance of, upon their release, actually getting a job, actually sustaining that employment. So in that sense, we've helped them. I think that we may have also, hopefully, we've increased their awareness of environmental issues, of the whole concept of sustainability, and made them aware of the potential within that industry, so they can really kind of see how they could move forward and progress within that. In terms of other people involved around the project, I think that it has probably helped a lot of people who've worked alongside these offenders, in that they've actually realised it's started to break down some of the stigmas and some of the preconceived ideas about offenders, and actually it's started to actually kind of change the tide in terms of what people perceive of that group, and really the enthusiasm for working with them and for trying to have a